I think when it came to, it's not just the more serious charges, but it's the more complex charges, where the jury, in order to, for instance, find guilt on the racketeering charge, was going to have to find not just that Sean Combs had kicked his girlfriend, had beat people up, had engaged in truly abhorrent behavior, but that he ran a criminal.
We watch as Sean Diddy Combs, once the mastermind behind parties that took over entire penthouse floors, now sits shackled and slumped at the defense table. The bravado is gone, replaced by tears and a haunted look that makes us wonder if he finally understands what it means to lose everything. The king of bad boy has vanished. In his place sits a desperate man, trapped as the justice system closes in with cold precision. The prosecutors don't need to dramatize the moment. The image speaks for itself. This is what the end of invincibility looks like. We all remember the red carpets, the swagger, the champagne showers, and the legend that seemed to grow without limits. But now, the only cameras in his life focus on his trembling hands as he hears the words life sentence circle the courtroom like the final act of a Shakespearean tragedy.
That was mandatory. You didn't fall within one of the exceptions. What now happens when you've been convicted of 2 of those particular charges? That's what the judge is going to be looking at. And again, right now, considering it sounds like statements that the defense made, essentially admitting that Sean Combs is somebody who has had personal problems, but they were doing so to try and argue that he should not be found.
No one in the gallery misses the symbolism. This is the reckoning hip-hop never imagined, unfolding not with the loud energy of a Bad Boy Records launch, but with the slow, painful grind of courtroom procedure. Each new charge, racketeering, conspiracy, transporting for indecent acts, lands like a secret buried for decades finally clawing into daylight. The FBI and federal prosecutors argue that Combs's empire, worth hundreds of millions, was less a record label and more a shadowy kingdom. Now, with bail denied and real prison time looming, even his most loyal allies are starting to break. His fixers and assistants watch the trial with the look of people who know the next set of shackles might be theirs. Whispers ripple through the courtroom. Who will turn first? Who will Diddy sacrifice for even a shred of leniency? In this new reality, alliances are fragile, as NDAs leak and rumors spread. But it's no longer just about Diddy. The secret tapes, blackmail files, and vaults of evidence said to exist have become the real currency of this courtroom drama. At the center of that storm stands Gene Deal, the former bodyguard who once shielded Combs from the chaos of fame. Now, he's known as the man with the ultimate receipts. According to industry sources and his own cryptic interviews, Deal holds recordings so explosive they could bring down not only Combs, but an entire generation of artists and moguls tied to those infamous parties. These aren't just rumors whispered in DMs. They're the kind of allegations that make Diddy's old friends flinch every time the phrase sealed evidence hits the news.
They've been afraid of coming forward. They've been afraid of what he could potentially do to them within the industry, what he could do to them professionally, maybe even personally. And so yes, it's been a dark secret they've held on to for a very, very long time.
Gene Deal, once a trusted enforcer and now a potential star witness, has been living out his own drama on the courthouse steps. After allegedly punching a YouTuber who hurled insults at him, Deal was temporarily banned from the trial, but not before fueling public curiosity with sly hints about what might be on those tapes. "It is disturbing," he admitted in one rare on-record quote, describing how Combs could allegedly manipulate a woman into believing she was pleasing him by indulging his fetishes. Those words came just days after Cassie Ventura's explosive testimony, and the subtext was clear. This isn't only about what happened behind closed doors, it's about a system of control and complicity. Inside the courtroom, the circus grows louder. Every time Deal sidesteps questions about what really happened at those so-called freak-offs, or stays silent just a beat too long when pressed about his own role, the rumor mill ignites. Was he an accomplice, a bystander, or simply another trapped player with no power to say no? One viral TikTok shows Deal stone-faced, refusing to answer questions about the alleged presence of minors at those parties. "That look said it all," one commenter insisted. Another questioned why certain people always rush to shield Deal whenever the toughest questions surface. Industry insiders remain divided. Some claim Deal was just another cog in a machine too dangerous to fight. Others insist he was a gatekeeper, a man who could have blown the whistle years ago. Either way, every time his name trends, the sense of dread in Diddy's camp climbs higher.
How many people came through his orbit? How many people could this have happened to? And how did he get away with it?
Meanwhile, the stakes keep climbing because Gene Deal's rumored arsenal goes far beyond party schedules or casual pillow talk. The tapes are said to include conversations with A-listers, contract details, backseat confessions, hotel elevator exchanges, even supply lists for the freak-offs so detailed they'd make a professional planner blush. If those tapes ever surface in court, the fallout could trigger a second wave of indictments, sweeping in rappers, actors, and power brokers far beyond Combs's circle. 3 separate insiders say at least 2 major music executives have already hired lawyers, bracing for the storm. One former tour manager put it bluntly. Gene's got the kind of stuff that makes people disappear for a month just to get their stories straight. For Combs, the only thing more terrifying than a life sentence is the possibility that saving himself might mean turning on everyone he's ever worked with. His lawyers call this government overreach, but the evidence keeps stacking up with the rhythm of a funeral drum. Prosecutors argue that the freak-off sessions, with their days-long excess, heavy drug use, and carefully planned logistics, were not just the eccentric habits of a superstar. They describe an organized criminal operation where every assistant, bodyguard, and personal shopper played a part, whether buying supplies or cleaning up the aftermath. According to the government, they've mapped a shadow network built on threats, bribes, and silence, a system that kept the truth buried for years. At the heart of the case is the RICO statute, a law originally written to bring down mob bosses and mafia dons. Now, the same hammer that once crushed John Gotti is being swung at Combs. And for anyone who's ever seen a gangster film, the parallels are impossible to miss.
Referred to me as Wild King Nights. And what a Wild King Night was when him and a guest would go to a hotel room or be at his home, his bedroom, and they would have intimate gatherings. I would have to go and prep that hotel room, which consisted of baby oil, Astroglide.
This is where Cassie Ventura's testimony electrifies the air. For years, she was the quiet figure lingering in party photos, the R&B singer surrounded by rumors like a cloud of perfume. But when she took the stand, the mood in the courtroom shifted. She didn't just describe the physical and emotional trauma she says she endured. She laid out a system. The freak-offs weren't wild nights, they became a job. She told the jury about endless days where she was expected to perform, maintain the facade, and recover with nothing more than a handful of pills. She spoke of being filmed, threatened, and forced to use aliases like Jackie Star and Veronica Bunga to keep everything hidden. At one point, she described recordings being used as blackmail, hinting that Combs was stockpiling insurance in case anyone ever dared to go public. But what the world didn't know was that Cassie had been quietly building an escape plan of her own. As whispers of her so-called blackmail package grew louder, sources close to her legal team claimed she had spent years saving everything. Files, texts, secret voice memos, even alleged video clips that could back up her story. These weren't just her lifeline, they were her trump card. They reportedly gave her leverage to negotiate a safer exit from Combs's world, and maybe even gave her the courage to testify. Did she ever actually threaten to release the package? No one outside her circle can say. But the mere existence of those files has forced Combs's defense team to tiptoe around her every word. If there's one thing the mogul feared more than a federal indictment, it was losing control of his own story.
This is the flight where Diddy said to her, he testified that he showed her a video of a freak-off that she participated in and said, if you don't participate in another freak-off when we get to New York, I'm going to put this video out. I'm going to send it to your mother.
And that's coercion.
She testified to that.
If the jury
believe her, that's coercion.
With each day in court, the web of enablers, fixers, and one-time friends begins to unravel. Former assistants describe booking hotel rooms under fake names like Frank Black, a nod to Biggie's nickname, while being ordered to deliver cash, source supplies, and stay silent no matter what they witnessed. Even Kid Cudi enters the story with a chilling memory. After a dispute with Combs, someone firebombed his car with a Molotov cocktail. Cassie later testified that she had given Diddy the address. The intimidation wasn't subtle. It was theatrical, designed to warn anyone thinking of crossing the king. And the question lingers. How deep does it all go? Prosecutors claim to have mapped more than 20 years of wrongdoing, but admit there are still rooms full of secrets. Every new testimony feels like another domino toppling. Diddy's own lawyers, who once mocked the idea that a music label could be painted as a criminal syndicate, now scramble to counter evidence that reads like a blueprint for organized crime. They concede he was flawed, but insist he was no racketeer. Meanwhile, the jury sits through day after day of testimony about assistants running errands no one in a normal workplace could imagine. Bribe, arson, intimidation, all allegedly in service of Combs's empire. But at the center of it all lies betrayal. Betrayal of fans, of friends, of the myth of untouchability. Some accomplices are already cutting deals with prosecutors to save themselves. Others remain silent, weighing loyalty against the cost of a life sentence. And always looming are Gene Deal's tapes. What happens if those recordings surface, whether in public or in court? Who will be dragged down next? With every leak, every revelation, the stakes climb higher and the list of potential casualties grows longer. The only certainty is that the myth of invincibility, the belief that money and fame could buy endless protection, is bleeding out under the fluorescent lights of a Brooklyn courtroom.
I thought he was this clean businessman who rise to the top because he was such a powerful and, smart, educated man. I had no idea that he had this other side to him. And when I started to get exposed to his lifestyle, I started to really realize, this guy has an addiction. It's not just, once every few weeks, it's every day, every hour.
The curtain hasn't fallen yet, but the ending feels inevitable. What began as whispers in back rooms has erupted into a spectacle where secrets, power, and reputation are all on trial. Every testimony, every leak, every tape tightens the noose around a legacy once thought untouchable. The world is watching to see who breaks next, and how far the collapse will reach. Stay locked in, because the story of Diddy isn't just about one man's fall. It's about an empire crumbling in real time.